Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, friends for life.
We're in a season or a period of Earth history that I think very few of us ever even imagined or envisioned. And this time around, we're having several conversations. And this is Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen, and welcome. This time I'm talking to a sister, to a friend, Latoya Minott. Welcome, Latoya.
Thank you so much for having me, Noreen.
Latoya is a communication specialist, motivational speaker, but most importantly, among other titles that she would have, she's a child of God. No, we're gonna, yes. Say that again?
I said amen.
Yes. We're going to be talking about this whole idea of social distancing because it's something that everybody's been hearing now for several weeks. So our topic is, how can we remain connected when we must maintain social distancing? Now, we're going to deal with it in two ways. Firstly, in terms of spiritually, in terms of how we can remain connected to God, because as it is right now, a lot of churches, in terms of the physical church, is closed, Latoya. And then we're going to switch to the whole idea of ensuring that we remain connected with our friends, with our family members, with our co-workers, while maintaining this social distance. So, Latoya, let's get right into it in terms of the spiritual piece.
All right, first and foremost, I want to say hello to your listeners and just to say to everyone that in this particular season, as we're beginning with, focusing on the spiritual aspects of things, in this particular season is a time when those of us who truly believe in God, this is a time for us to stand firm, be grounded, to allow our faith to take precedence, and to really just be strengthened by all those things that we would have believed, all those things that we would have read in the Bible, Noreen, all those things that we would have over time gone to church, heard, listened to. It is now practical times and a time in which we are all called upon to put into action those elements of our faith that we so said we believed in, and those aspects of our faith that we claimed to have had. So I believe first and foremost it's a true test of those who will last this very trying period, this very interesting time, over which, as you have rightly said, we have never in our period of being alive ever witnessed or ever experienced anything like this. So as a result of that, we have to now become creative human beings and to just make sure that things last. Our topic this evening about how do we stay connected while practicing social distancing, while being told by the local authorities that our physical churches, their doors have to be closed, or in some instances, I think the numbers have now been reduced to 10, right?
10, that's right.
Right. So as a result of that, we are being faced for the first time with a situation where nowhere in our history in Jamaica have we ever been told, close your doors, close your church doors. During hurricanes, churches are used as shelters. During every kind of disaster, the church has always been one of those institutions that have always been constant. And the doors, the symbolic doors, have always remained open. But now, as you've rightly said, we have transitioned into a time we did not anticipate would happen. And so even things, Noreen, that we would have turned our backs on in the past, things that some persons would have preached even from their pulpits about in a negative light, Those are the very tools and instruments at this point in time that I find the Lord Himself is using to connote those messages that He would want to give to His people. And what I mean by that is this. I started reflecting just a day ago, and I said, Lord, this is a very interesting period that we're in. And I use the term interesting very loosely because the words, it would require much more words to describe or encapsulate exactly what it is that we are in, Noreen. And one of the things that I came to observe was this, that I go to a church, or I've visited churches. Let me put it from that vantage point. I've visited churches where, even sometimes older pastors, and when I say older, I mean in terms of age, older persons who would have been born before our time, probably in my grandmother's time, or even a little older than my mother's time, because people in my mother and father's age group now are very actively using social media and the internet, and are very au fait with the technologies that are out there and available to us. Now, I can recall there were times when we would have gone to church and we would have heard pastors preaching from the pulpit about education, saying that, you're educated, and because you're educated, you have a different way of looking at God, or people have turned their backs on God, or the traditional ways of the church have been shunned, and education now replaces God and replaces that, almost unquestionable, in quotation marks, faith that we ought to have in God. And so there was this sort of closed-mindedness on the part of the church, and I use the term church in general, that used to say to us, listen, if you get into the worldly things, and if you're always at home watching TV, and you're always at home on Facebook, and you're always on the internet, those are the tools of the devil. And I used to hear ministers preach like that. And now I find it quite appalling, because I have never, Noreen, in all of my years on this earth, seen between Saturday and Sunday of last week so many messages being brought to me, being brought to the world by virtue of the internet and the very social media platforms that had received a lashing over the years from many persons who felt that these were the tools of the devil. Now it says to me that because God is all, and because God gives man wisdom and knowledge, and God understands and knows all, God is able to use all. And I think that God has also ushered us to a place, my sister, where we now have to realize that any tool that we have, especially where the world has gone in terms of globalization, and if we should take the word of the Lord literally and say, go ye into all the world, there are many of us who don't have no visa. Many of us who don't even have a passport. More so to go ye into all the world. But we have the technological tools in our hands, computers in our homes, tablets in our hands, cell phones in our hands, and any other technological device or gadget that we can use. Start a WhatsApp group now, a WhatsApp group that you can use as your little prayer group. And so when you make that group, you set certain strict set of rules, and you said, this is a group where we will pray at a certain time of the day. Or this is where we will share encouraging words. So we don't want no COVID-19 news in the group. And we don't want any discussion about anything on the outside to affect that sacredness that we're trying to get here on the inside. So you can start your little prayer group, and persons can choose different times of the day within which they can opt to pray, to share a word. Some people may want to expound, some people may want to encourage, and just use the technology to do different things. Everybody is going live now, and your Instagram page has the capacity to do that. Your Facebook page has the capacity to do that. And and your YouTube page, along with other social media entities, they have, or internet-based entities, they have the capacity, Noreen, to usher you into communities, into homes, into places that you would not have generally been able to from where you stand. And as I said, on the weekend when I observed how many persons were sitting in their living rooms in t-shirts, regular t-shirts, and some people chose to still look churchy, so they dress up in their jacket and tie. I saw one minister in his jacket and suit and thing, and really expounding the word. And what it says to me is that sometimes when we get lazy and complacent as children of God, He has to sometimes use adversity and situations in our lives to usher us into that place where we really need to go. So I can tell you this: when COVID goes, and we know it will and it must go, that church is not going to ever be the same again. This consistent dependency on preaching from a pulpit or wanting to reach people under a tent, for those of us who evangelize that sort of way. There's a shift, a paradigm shift, and a thought shift, a social shift here, social distancing coming into place, a social shift that now says, while we are distanced in the physical flesh, it simply means that we are still not cut off 100%, but we have the capacity to still maintain that communication between persons, even our relatives who are far away, and persons with whom we worship, and persons who were part of our congregations. We can send out links now also. Listen, check me at 10 a.m. on X morning or Y morning. We will be praying. Or we will be having a worship session. I saw Tyler Perry start a challenge. And it tells me how impactful and how large globalization is. Because he sent out something on his page this week via Facebook that said he was challenging Christians across the world to sing a line or several lines of the song, "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands." And all you needed to do was sing what you were singing in a different way, raise the note, change the keys, hashtag, "He's got the whole world in his hands." And believe me, by a certain time during the day after he had put that thing out, multiple persons, to include celebrities, musicians, all persons from different walks of life, had caught on to that and were just hashtagging and singing, "He's got the whole world in his hand." And so what you found was the whole world was singing and reminding each other because of the social space that we use on the internet, that God still has the whole world in his hands. Can you imagine that? That for me, that was so profound and so telling. So I believe now that the 3-step messages, where you have your title, your exegesis, and you have your one topic 2, topic 3, and then you have your closing, and the teacher in me knows that is how you teach people to write an essay also, and those things are over and done with, because you cannot come on no social media, Noreen, and come tell people now, and this is my the first item that I will be talking to you today about is, you want viewership and you want to capture the audience that is there. Yes, man. So I believe God is bringing us to this practical place now where we realize that all things are really His. All things are really His, and we can use all the tools, everything. I mean, the situation is so telling, my sister. We can use everything around us for the glory and for the honor and praise of God, and that is what it boils down to.
And it's a timely reminder, because for too long, and a lot of us spend a lot of time using these digital tools, professionally or otherwise. So it's a timely reminder that it can be utilized for the work of God. So with all of this social distancing that we've been talking about, we've focused for this conversation on the whole idea of our connection with God, and how even how we worship has changed. Join us next week for another part of this conversation, where this time we will talk about how we're going to remain connected with our family and our friends and our co-workers.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making it last.